Namato Ratana Tayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect also goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello. Today, on the occasion of a Vesak celebration, I was asked to give a short introduction to meditation and also guide how to practice meditation. Today, we are in a very different situation and very different environment. And in this different situation, as the days passed, as the pandemic lockdown is going to end, and there is a sense of freedom, and there is a sense of releasement that we've been locked down. We didn't do anything wrong. We didn't do anything that's caused us to be locking us down inside our own house. And yet, when the government is discussing to ease or to exit from this lockdown, we are so anxious and we are so unsure that what is going to be. There are people who have been so engaged with watching the movies, so-called in Netflix or in different applications. When it was the first week, then everyone was feeling so excited to have nothing to do, nowhere to go, sit and relax at home. But once 1 week passed, everyone became more conscious and worried and had a fear of this situation. And after a month, we all have this thought of when we are going to be free, and we wonder freely. And with that in our mind, we all looking forward to the so-called lockdown end. But we shouldn't be heedlessly overlooking or not mindful of all the guidelines or measures that the government had introduced. Those are simply for the safety of ourselves and also keeping the society safe. And with this tiny creature, which is not a complete creature yet, it's just a virus, does not regard it as Pana or one who has got the life yet. Invisible, but so deadly, spread all around the world, has created tremendous fear and unstable and everything stopped. stopped and unstable, uncertain. So we, in a way, fighting with this invisible deadly virus or Mara, and which also caused the social gatherings, meeting with each other, or going to visit somebody, and working together, which has caused a great crisis in different forms. Although we are looking at the virus at the moment, but the result or the cause of this virus affecting so many different discourse in our society, economy, labor, hunger, and so and so. And yet, we are entering into new norms that we never used to. And that's the reason why we are here celebrating Vesak, the Buddha's birth, his enlightenment, and his passing away, or the Parinibbana day, online. Probably this is the first time in the history since the time of the Buddha that we've been using, or the society been using this modern technology to celebrate and to teach and to remember this Vesak and show our gratitude to the Buddha who has shown the great path to find liberation. When we look at to ourselves, if we ask ourselves what is the most important things to know in the world, what would be the answer? Is it about the virus? Is it about the world? Is it about something outside? And that normally links to our well-being and happiness. As a Buddhist, we normally should be able to understand this question and understood that the Buddha's teachings is simply to understand suffering and the elimination of suffering. And this should be the first question or most important question that we should be asking. When we are asking about the rest of the world, external things, then we would not be able to attain so-called real happiness. But when we investigate, realized, and able to eliminate this suffering, then we achieve the greater happiness. And that happiness is not just in the present moment. We believe that that also helps to cultivate our mind to attain liberation. And now, in order to understand this suffering, it is not just simply by reading a books, listening to talks, and investigating on that alone will understand. This needs to be experienced in our own way of a practice. And that's the reason why there is so-called the meditation practice. And this meditation in accordance with the Buddhism is the fundamental teachings of the Buddha. It doesn't matter how much we understood or we have known Buddha's teachings, philosophies, but if we do not practice and we haven't realized it properly, then these Buddha's teachings will be mere only the philosophy. It seems like just a menu at the restaurant that we can recite and we can ponder, but we haven't tasted the menu yet. So practice of a meditation is not just to get insight into Buddha's teachings, but also help us to understand the true suffering. So true realization of the things as they truly are. That's called dukkha. And the practice, that's why Buddha emphasized more and more. There is a story as well at the time of the Buddha that who Buddha would praise. A person who offers goods, flowers, incense, fruits, or a person who practices himself and realize the truth and liberate himself. So Buddha told that he prefer one who takes his teachings, his guidance, and put it into practice and realize the truth. And after realization of the truth, he will be liberated. And that's how one should be paying respect to the Buddha. So it's called Dhammanu Dhamma Patipattiya Buddhang Pujemi. Practicing in accordance with the teachings of the Buddha, I pay respect to him. So, and the practice again is a famous two words, that's a samatha and vipassana. Some people would say we have to develop samatha first and then go to vipassana practice. And some would say you don't have to go to the samatha practice, but you can start off with the vipassana. Now, it's not a topic that we should think of. The important topic is do and go and do it, because in Anguttara Nikaya, Buddha clearly mentioned there are four types or four ways of a practice of a meditation. One is the samatha leading to the vipassana. Second, vipassana leading to samatha. And the third, practicing together. And then the fourth is investigative. It's called yoniso manasikara practice. So that's why it doesn't matter which technique, it's a matter of whether you are doing it or not. Right? Whether you're doing it or not. And when we go and do practice, first we face a problem is to sit still. It's very difficult to sit still. Whatever position you think, whether you are sitting on a cushion or on a sofa or a wonderful comfy couch, within a few minutes of the time, we feel uncomfortable and we move. So sitting comfortably and not reacting and not moving is one of the hard practice that one has to go through. Whichever practice you're doing, whether it's samatha or whether it's a vipassana, every one of us will face that. And as slowly you grow onto the practice, your mind become so calmer, and ability to focus on something or an object, normally it is known, and gradually you will be able to staying still, stationed in one place for a longer period of time. So it's not about how long you sit. It's about how calm you are. That supports your sitting. The more your mind calm, non-distracted, the longer you can sit down. And that is the reason why when you are going to practice meditation, you have to learn to disconnect from all the disturbances, disconnect from every responsibilities and duties that you are responsible for. And once you have fully disconnected, so-called feathers, Buddha called it feathers, and you are free from all those duties and responsibilities and having a quiet place, it helps. It helps us to not to be distracted and calms our mind down, and we can meditate a little longer. And when we meditate again, the mind will just drift away. It's just work. It's been so used to, and it's been a habit pattern that we are thinking a lot. And this habit pattern of a thinking one after another, whether it is based on the past or whether it is based on our experiences, worrying about the future, our mind is so active and thinking about it a lot. And as a result, when meditate, it's very difficult to concentrate. And now there is so-called the concentration object. Concentration object is simply we intentionally, with our own attention, with our intention, we are paying attention to that object. And that is simply deliberately we are disconnecting or distracting ourselves, disconnecting from all the distractions, or we are distracting ourselves from other distractions to one object. And that is known as the samatha meditation. So we practice with that and we work on that. We pay attention to on that one, a particular object. And immediately, as soon as you began paying attention to that object, you realize mind is not there anymore. Mind will not stay there anymore. It will go and think, oh, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. Oh, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. So and so. Oh, why there is a noise? Whether is or is he meditating or not, whether is she or is he opening their eyes or not, and so and so. We go into the thought processes and constantly going into that thought. Whereas when we are meditating, we're supposed to be paying attention to the one object, and we won't be able to pay attention to on that. This goes off. So that's why, as a beginner in a practice of a meditation, what we need to do is to pay attention to on that object, to develop our mental strength, the mental power, an ability to control this mind. So we become a master of this mind rather than this mind is telling us to do this and do that. And if you're practicing regularly, then you can see that how our mind takes control of our emotion, our day-to-day life. And we will be able to make a choice in it. And then we can decide whether you want to do it or not, whether you want to change it or not, whether you want to continue it or not. So you become a person who decide turning to right or a left. So you take control of the mind rather than mindlessly feeding this mind whatever it wishes for. And when we know that, when we realize this, and as we pay attention to those sensations and those mental states, what happens is gradually we realize that this mind is not controllable. It changes at all the time. It changes at all the time. It is changing constantly, continuously. And when it changes and we cannot accept that change, we cannot bear with that change, and that's how we become disappointed. And that's how we become sad, upset, angry. So practice of meditation is to see that changing nature, ability to see that changing nature. And you will, smiling at yourself, wow, what a wonderful experience is this. And when your mind becomes even more settled, calmed, and with the object, an ability to follow, an ability to take this mind wherever we want it to be, it's up to us to put the mind. In that moment, you experience such a great joy, great happiness, and lifting. And that's the wonderful test. And that's the wonderful happiness that remains with you for the rest of your time, rest of your life. I remember about 20 years ago when I began practicing meditation for the first time. I went to practice in a Goenka's center for 10 days, a silent retreat. And it was my first ever practice. I never knew about the meditation. I never been to the courses. And I was instructed, and as I was told to go and attend, I went and attend. The first 3 days were terrible. 3 days were terrible, so hard. It's like even worse than going to the battle. You're simply watching the breath, in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. Simply focusing at the nostrils, tip of the nose, as breathe in, aware of breathing, as breathe out, aware of the breathing out. And simply there is an extension of little bit, the whole area of upper lift and below the nostrils, and then extending it to the whole nose. And that's how you grow slowly, slowly. You're developing your awareness. For 3 days was terribly hard. And once you are given so-called vipassana, the scanning the whole entire body, experiencing the Vedana, the sensations, and you work with that one after another in different ways. And you become so used to with the practice, and you take control of your mind, and you are scanning the entire body, experiencing this, the sensation which just arises, remains, and vanishes every moment, every time, every time when you observe it. And gradually it gives you so calm, so lightness, so happy, and you're smiling. I still remember after this retreat, I went back home. I was feeling like a feather. so light, so bright, and so relieved. That was so wonderful experience that was. And that led me to be a monk later year. And I became a monk. And I continue practicing on this practice for many years. And even went to Thailand for the practice and I study. Even in Thailand again, I went to practice in different techniques. But I had a great fight within myself, in my head. And this technique is the only technique that's right, and rest of other techniques are wrong. Even in the university, when I was in the university, we have to go to the 10 days forest retreats every year. I just did it just to fulfill the university requirements. But my mind always stuck with this technique of anapanasati as I was practicing the scanning the entire body and experiencing this Vedana. And I hope you are not facing same problem like me. It took me 6 years to realize that there are many, many techniques that also works. And it was one of the retreats that I went. It was 24 or 25 days retreat, silent retreat. So in that retreat, nobody's talking, no chanting, just simply you wake up 4:30 and continue practicing meditation. And anything, any days, any moment, if you have different sensations or different experiences and you feel fear or you feel doubt, then there is a teacher or master waiting in the so-called glass room who would be observing all of us. And you can go and talk to him, get some ideas, get some advice on your experience. So that's why in the practice of an insight meditation, having a good teacher or the master is very, very essential to get the good improvement and progress in the practice. Some people may say we don't have to have a teacher. I would say without a teacher, you cannot get improvement. That's why Buddha called it Kalyana Mitta. So masters are simply Kalyana Mitta, helping you to grow in this spiritual journey. And on that retreat, about 15 or 16 days later in the afternoon, one of the sessions, I realized, oh, I was holding onto my perception and my experience that I had when I was doing this anapanasati as taught by the Goenka or Sayam Ubakin. It was like eye-opening. It was like so relief, and it was like the whole horizon been opened for you now. And after that, I've learned so many other techniques. And some people or some practitioners would say this technique is not good, that technique is not good, and this is that, like that. But if you are a serious practitioner and you really understood the essence of the practice, then all what you need is just to do the practice, not the distinctions. Buddha never made any distinctions. Everything is conducive, everything is helpful. All what need is the virya, our effort to continue practicing. And as we continue practice, our perception gradually changes. So, in my understanding, the whole Buddhism is, or Buddha's teachings, is simply to change our perception. And to change that perception, the true change comes through realization. And that true realization comes through own experience that you have practiced, investigated, and you got the good support and good help. And you change your perception. And if we look at it, the jhanas factors, and there is a state called non-perception before entering the samapatti jhanas. So, in the practice of a meditation, never stick with one technique and thinking that this is the one. You can try every technique. You can go and learn and experience and understand that. Ultimately, all techniques are teaching simply to understand this body and this mind and the matter, nothing else. Although we start off with bodily contemplation, body is not the one that we are learning. We are learning to know the phenomena, so-called the mind and the matter. Body is just the one part, and the mind, it has got the four parts to know. And these four parts, again, as we understood, this mind in its true nature is only what we realize, the sensation and how we perceive. And the perception, again, based on our memories, based on our experiences. And on the basis of that, we form, we create, we proliferate, we exaggerate. And there is one so-called consciousness who is knowing it. So in the practice, that's why as you develop, you understand that we simply watch, and seeing it as they are. Sometimes we just see it, but we do not watch. We just pass, but we do not watch. So we intentionally pay attention to the objects that arises, and we see it in its true nature, understanding the true nature of it. And that's simply to know this mind, how it works. And mind, when we realize the mind, and that's the moment, so beautiful. So that's why I always take this body as the first foundation, as a breeze, to understand the feelings. If we don't have body as the foundation to begin with, we will not be experiencing the feeling. And feeling always passes through this body to begin with. And this feeling, when we pay attention to this feeling so closely, and that again help us to understand this mind, how our mind is relating to this feeling, how our mind is engaging with this feeling. So basically, we are paying attention to the condition of the mind itself and activities of this mind towards something out there. And when we know this mind and working with this mind, we realize this mind is flicking, changing at all the time. And so beautiful to watch this change. So beautiful. It's like a turning the pages of the book. Yeah? So beautiful. It's like a moving so slowly, but yet so consistently and so frequently. It's changing. And when you realize that, there is only one word you can say, and that one word is simply aha. Yeah? Aha. Or ah. And you have no word to explain what that experience is. You simply see that as a change. When I experienced that a few years ago, for the first time, it was 10 days. I took a 10-day silent retreat. So that I was not meeting with anyone, and the whole room was locked. You cannot see anybody at all. And I was meditating there, so doing sitting, walking, sitting, walking, sitting, walking. So about day 5 was a big battle within myself with the two minds. One is saying yes, one is saying no, one is saying yes, one is saying no. The experience that you're experiencing is yes, and another saying no. Is that is a perception, or is it a true, like that? So there was a constant battle going on, and suddenly that moment when my mind quietened and I observed that thought processes, and I realized, oh, the mind changed slowly. So beautiful. And when I realized that change, and I realized that, ah, an ability to accept that change, or see that change, understand that change, generates disappointment. Because we have a perception that I want to have this and I want to have that. This is me, that is mine. This is yes, this is like this. When something changes, then we take it differently. But in ultimate sense, knowing this mind itself as the nature of change is changing all the time. So being conscious of this changing nature, changing mind, and that is the Dhammanupassana. Understanding, once you have understood the changing nature of such an insight in our mind in that form, every moment it is changing, every object that we observe, it's a changing, every time when we aware of that, it's a changing in this way. And that's Dhammanupassana. And the whole Dhammanupassana becomes so relevant, so beautiful. And that's why I always say to the students that we don't have to worry or think about the Dhammanupassana at all. All what you need to do is to do with the body, do with the feeling, do with the mind. The very moment when we have a full understanding of the body, full understanding of the sensations, and full understanding of this mind, the whole Dhammanupassana will just emerge. It's like you have got the torchlight to walk in the dark, and you see the whole path, the whole nature. And that's all, again, up to us to practice. And this practice comes with a dedication. And continuous practice is the important. And always being a mindful, and it is not just, again, the last thing I want to emphasize, that do not keep the meditation on the cushion, or do not leave the meditation on the cushion. So take that meditation with you into your day-to-day life. There are plenty of people thinking separation between their life and the meditation, and that's how they couldn't find time to meditate. But if you take the meditation into your day-to-day life, or with yourself, then Every moment become a part of your practice. Every moment become a part of collecting the points to develop your practice. Whether you're talking, eating, walking, sleeping, every possible ways that you can do. Every time when you're doing it mindfully, and every time when you're doing it mindfully, aware of that mindful mind, and that's how you're collecting the points. And gradually it's become a second nature. And as once it's become a second nature, everything is fine. Nothing is wrong. Everything is fine. Everything becomes so beautiful. Everything becomes so wonderful. There's no good, no bad, but that is. It's called abhayakata. You cannot explain. It's not the wholesome, not the unwholesome. So I offer this as a reflection for this Vesak celebration, and as the Pandit Sumana is organizing. Uh, so those who are listening, may you be happy, peaceful, and continue practicing, and may you realize the true teachings of the Buddha and free from the suffering and attain the ultimate happiness of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.